It's now time for us to take a look at the World Brief and review some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world. We begin with what is currently the biggest news story globally, as former President Joe Biden was diagnosed with an aggressive form of prostate cancer, according to a statement from his personal office Sunday, and it has unfortunately spread to his bones. The statement read, "Last week, President Joe Biden was seen for a new finding of a prostate nodule after experiencing increasing urinary symptoms. On Friday, he was diagnosed with prostate cancer, characterized by a Gleason score of 9, that's grade group 5, with metastasis to the bone." It continued, while this represents a more aggressive form of the disease, the cancer appears to be hormone sensitive, which allows for effective management. Now, this news is coming as excerpts from a book authored by Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson documenting an alleged insider's perspective into the former president's health challenges was publicly previewed. The book is titled Original Sin: President Biden's Decline, Its Cover-Up, and His Disastrous Choice to Run Again, and documents some of his health lapses, especially during the campaign period. Now, on the African continent, the leading Kenyan lawyer and also former Justice Minister Martha Karua says that she has been deported from Tanzania to prevent her from attending the court case of opposition leader Tundu Lissu. 2 colleagues accompanying her were also reportedly detained and deported after flying in from neighboring Kenya. Tanzanian authorities have not yet commented on the issue, but the team, which was detained and interrogated at the airport prior to deportation, was coming into the country to support Lissu, who is the leader of Tanzania's main opposition, Chadema party, and is due to appear in court on Monday after being charged with treason last month. Human rights groups have been increasingly concerned about a crackdown on the opposition in Tanzania that's ahead of presidential and parliamentary elections due in October. Rufai, your take on these 2 issues?
So a couple of things. As regards the case in Tanzania, and I really feel for Martha Karua because it's a very terrible place she is in now. You know, she was part of the coalition that went against the incumbent, but Baba, as it's fondly called, has gone to do a deal with Ruto, and she's been left in the cold, you know.
Raila
Odinga. So our political future, goodness me, hangs in the balance somewhere. But also, when you look at it, as regards to the Lissu, I would just want, Madam Hassan, to be very careful. Because in Tanzania, we saw the harmful effect of the Magufuli-ric kind of brand of politics that was being played against the opposition. And a lot of people thought Madam Hassan was a cool head that would prevail in this case and all of that. But we are increasingly seeing this as regards this Tundu Lissu case. I don't think it's fair shielding people like Martha Karua out. If she wants to come out observe, then let her come out observe. It is at a time like this that you expect hands to be spread out right, so that at least we can have some level of integrity as regards the case. Political opponents definitely will go out loggerheads at each other. But it doesn't mean that you should sort of push anybody that wants to bring in any veneer of fairness to the process and say, okay, let my face be seen that I even stand for fairness in this process. So that was quite off-putting, especially for the fact that, she was a top candidate in the last election. The second thing about Joe Biden, very sad one, we pray for his quick recovery. In fact, Donald Trump has issued a statement praying for his quick recovery, which is very positive, but I'm sure that doesn't stop Donald Trump from abusing Joe Biden in the next minute and say he was a horrible president. But coming to the book written by Jake Tapper, truth has to be told, Joe Biden really messed up, and the people in the White House really messed up as regards running for that election. They knew he wasn't capable. We started to see the signs. He was sloppy on words. In fact, there were other copious evidence of constant neurological visits by doctors to come in there to check on the neurological condition of Joe Biden. But he kept on insisting it was just routine. And that's not fair, because you put your party in jeopardy. And if it was not for that elections, that debates, that CNN debates, we will not have known how bad things were. And it's not fair. And that's why you might hate the likes of Pelosi that came strong against you and the likes of Obama, but they had a strong point. And also the fact that you now said, it had to be your vice presidential candidate, not giving them the chance to be able to have like a proper, democratic process to be able to get somebody out, also affected the chance of the Democratic Party. Until today, the Democratic Party has not healed. So, and that book is going to reveal more. because I'd seen a couple of pressers Jake Tapper has granted. But that was unfair. What Joe Biden did was very selfish, to say the very least. And I'm sure the party is already suffering it, and the party might be in political doldrums for a while.
They said at some point he couldn't even recognize George Clooney.
Clooney, yeah, that was organizing a fundraiser for him.
To start with Tanzania, which is closer home. Now, Martha Karua was running mate to
Raila Odinga
Raila Odinga in the 2022 election. But she has since moved on to establish her own political party, the PLP. She served as Justice Minister, Attorney General in Kenya, and also she's a well-known human rights activist. She was at the opening trial in April for Tundu Lissu, and then this time around, she has been subjected to interrogation, along with Gloria Kimani and also Lynn Ngugi, who were the other lawyers who accompanied her. Needless, unwarranted interrogation, as she pointed out, and then eventually they were deported. Now, every accused person, whether it's for treason or for theft, is entitled to legal representation. It's a fundamental right, recognized not just in the Tanzanian Constitution, but also under Universal Human Declaration of Human Rights and the African People's Charter dealing with human rights. So for the Tanzanian authorities to have interrogated them, to have expelled them, I think it's outrageous. And that is why the Tanzania Human Rights Coalition, has come out boldly to condemn this. And also the Chadema party spokesperson has also condemned this. An accused person has a right to the legal representation of his own choice. Where you abrogate that, where you delete that, where you frustrate that, you are violating the fundamental human rights of that particular person. Now, Tundu Lissu, let me go quickly to Tundu Lissu. Tundu Lissu was arrested in April. He's leader of the opposition party, the Chadema party, and he organized a rally. And he said, no reforms, no election. His argument was basically that the electoral framework in Tanzania at this moment will not deliver free and fair elections. And he demanded changes. That was why they charged him for treason. Now, in the whole of East Africa, it looks like democratic backsliding, to use an expression by Martha Karua herself. In Uganda, Besigye was kidnapped on the streets of Kenya and deported to Uganda, where they now say he too is facing treason charges, just for expressing an opinion. And so Martha Karua, really, she's an activist who's trying to defend, the path of justice. Now, apart from the fact that Tundu Lissu has been arrested for treason, which carries the death penalty punishment, his party, the Chadema party, has also been banned from taking part in the parliamentary and presidential elections that will be taking place in Tanzania in October. This is about election. This is about the CCM, which has been ruling Tanzania since 1977, trying to remain in power. Now, what is the irony here? When President Samia Suluhu Hassan took over as president, we all were excited.
Yeah, so
we said, oh, it's a woman, another woman president. And when she took over from John Magufuli, who died in office in 2021, she provided an opportunity for greater freedom in Tanzania. Now, this same president has gone the way of other African presidents, suppressing the opposition. This is the crisis that democracy faces in Africa. The reality that whether it's a man or a woman, they all behave the same way. And I think that, this is very unfortunate. And the democratic backsliding that, Mata Karua talks about is in place. Now, as for President Biden, very quickly, the main point by the Tapper and Alex Thompson in their book, The Original Sin, is that President Biden has been having issues. Now, in 2021, he had issues with his colon. Polyp was removed from his colon. In 2023, he had a skin lesion, which is, they call it skin melanoma.
Cancer.
Skin cancer.
Skin cancer,
basically, which they removed from his body. And now they say he has, this aggressive prostate cancer, which on the grade 1 to 10, under the Gleason index, they say is 9, which means that it's aggressive. But they say it's hormone sensitive. However, they need to notice that this is an 82-year-old man. One doctor once told me that once a man is 80, anything can happen. And you recall that during his presidency, President Biden specifically focused on cancer. Trying to help people with cancer and all of that. But we can only join Kamala Harris, former vice president, join President Trump and other world leaders who are wishing him fast, quick, recuperation and recovery. But at 82, we can only thank God for the life of the 46th president of the United States. But at over 80, things happen.
Yeah.
We wish him well.
Yeah, absolutely. We certainly do. We're going to quickly move on to headlines making news across the globe in the newspaper review. Of course, we kick off with this day, which leads with President Tinubu's visit to the Vatican to witness the inauguration of Pope Leo XIV. Now, the second lead image pictures former President Olusegun Obasanjo having a moment with Nobel laureate Wole Soyinka at the National Sports Festival, currently taking place in Abeokuta, Ogun State. The caption reads, it's quite poetic, "When love of sports unites frenemies." I'm going to rush through the newspaper so that we can discuss that and unpack that. But let's quickly move to the New Telegraph, which leads with the organized private sector tackling FCCPC over what they feel are frivolous fines. FCCPC's frivolous fines will trigger more multinationals to exit. There's also a story about the Nigerian evangelist Timothy Omotosho, who was deported from South Africa yesterday. He's facing a number of challenges. Of course, he'd just been acquitted for multiple sexual abuse charges. Still on the economy, The Guardian places its focus on the central bank and the upcoming MPC meeting, reading MPC at crossroads over rate hike and sticky prices and global uncertainty. And also on the economy, Budget has slammed the 2025 budget for exceeding the trillion GDP projection by 3 trillion naira. They do a legal breakdown in that article of how the budget has gone against the Fiscal Policy Act. Well, now to politics. Punch newspapers leading with an update from the Grand Coalition for the 2027 elections. And, well, they're alleging that Atiku's camp has offered Peter Obi a VP role in a one-term deal. And they're saying that the opposition leaders may dump the SDP for ADC as new coalition platform. Well, still on politics, Daily Trust's headline today reads, automatic tickets contracts are fueling the defections to APC. Last but not least, internationally, we have the Wall Street Journal, which leads with an image of the newly inaugurated Pope Leo XIV at St. Peter's Square, while also looking at Russia stepping up attacks on Ukraine as Putin prepares for a phone call with Donald Trump today. I tried to do that very quickly.
Yeah, but it's so good. I think we've pretty much put in some words, so we'll put in more words, after.